Today's video is about sampling soils. We're gonna make sure that you know how to sample the soil. You all received a sampling bag that contains sampling bags. Then you also have two vials when we sample the water. We're using the EPA way of sampling for lead in soil. There's a very particular protocol that is listed for that. And this 5-point sample is something that the EPA wants when they do a site assessment for contamination. I will drive you through what it means and how we do the sampling for that. So now the next step is to know what are we going to sample. So you've thought about lead behavior in the environment. I've thought about that. I know this house, and it's a good idea to have a good knowledge of where you are sampling it. Before any starting, it's important to list and make sure that you have all the material available. You need some kind of scoop to sample. Just a regular scoop like that is great. Just a regular spoon. It can be a metal spoon, it can be a plastic spoon. Any kind of tool that you have that will allow you to scoop out some soil is important. For this 5-point sample, I use a bowl. You can use any kind of container that will allow you to put several samples in one place and mix it before you put it in the bag. Because putting it directly in the bag, 5 samples, may not be really a well-mixed sample at the end. So it's important to have, it could be a yogurt box, it could be a glass, it could be a mug. All right, and I also have kitchen towel, it could be toilet paper, it could be some tissues, whatever you have available, because before sampling and in between samples, it's important to just wipe the tool. You don't have to use water. We should make sure that this is clean. In this case, I washed it just before, so I know it's clean. And then we're gonna start the sampling. So this 5-point sampling basically is to represent what is the average value of lead for a given property. If you have a small property, you try to think about where would it make sense to have 5 samples. In this case, I have a fairly large property actually for Burlington. What I decided to do is 2 samples that are close to the house, 2 samples that are away from the house, and 1 sample that is somewhere in between. And I hope it's gonna be representative of what we have there. If you have a spotchy ground like that, it's actually the easiest to sample, because what we want to sample when we sample lead is the top surface of the soil, not the vegetation. So in this case, I don't have vegetation. I'll show you when we have vegetation what we do, but I'm just gonna scrape the top inch, not more, the top inch of soil. And we can think about the top inch of soil. And why only the top inch? It's because lead is not mobile in the environment. It stays in the solid phase. And this is also where people, kids in particular, will be more affected by contacting the soil. They play with the topsoil. The dust that the wind blows off comes from the topsoil. The animals, the plants, take nutrients from the topsoil. So that's really what is the most important to sample. So you take 1 inch of the topsoil, and then you move to another location, and here I'm gonna go to a location where there is grass. Of course, in between samples, I will wipe clean that spoon. You see the edges have most of the dust on them, and then I'll take the second sample. So in that case there is grass there, so what we want to do is remove the top grass that is there. So just scrape the grass away over a small area. You don't have to dig the entire backyard down. And then again, take the same volume of soil as you had before. We can take off the roots. We don't need the roots. We don't need that. we see a different soil in color. So now I have my two samples that are what we call in general background samples. They're samples that are not affected by anything. I'll go somewhere in the middle. Again, we have vegetation. We scrape the top layer. And the final two samples are going to be from the house itself, the drip zone, so the zone that is really nearby the house. Maybe we'll take one here and then one on the side. Pay attention as well, there is a reason why there is all these flowers right there and all this vegetation, and that I don't mow the lawn very well there. It's that I don't want to have access to this drip zone, so I maintain some kind of chaotic landscape on purpose. Okay, so we'll take here a sample, the final sample from the drip zone. Alright, and once you have all the 5 samples into this one container, you start mixing it. Alright, so that's a lot of soil. For the analysis that we want to do using X-ray fluorescence, we don't need that much. We actually probably only need that. Even less than that. So we are not going to take all of that. We're just going to subsample our mix from the bag. And take a representative sample. So don't do that too much because it will only take the fine particles. Try to be homogeneous and just randomly taking the sample. I would say that 2 scoops like that is enough. Close it well, and this is your first sample. Now I can use my map here and add where I took my samples. So I had 1 sample there. You can do that manually, you can do that using the computer, it's really not. And I'll be able to copy paste that image into the sample form.